Hello dear friends. In our previous lecture, we have discussed about the external features of Scoliodon, its digestive system and respiratory system. In this presentation, we are going to study about the external and internal structure of heart and working of heart of Scoliodon. The heart is the part of circulatory system, and how we can define a circulatory system? It is the system which carries or transport oxygen, which is respiratory gas, all the nutrients like glucose and hormones to cells and removes waste product like carbon dioxide from the body. So in the previous videos, we have seen that this glucose molecule is produced from the carbohydrates after the breaking of enzymes of the digestive system, and this oxygen gas which is coming from the respiratory system. This oxygen gas is oxidizing this glucose and energy is produced. But this oxygen, this nutrients, this all is transported to all the cells, and that function is performed by the circulatory system. As well as the waste material which is producing, for example, this carbon dioxide, it is harmful for the body. So it should be removed outside from the body, and it should be carried from cells to the respiratory system to expel outside. That function is performed by the circulatory system. So why I am showing you this equation? Because this digestive system, so respiratory system and circulatory system both work in an integrated manner, both work in an integrated way, and both are interdependent. Means the glucose is coming from the digestive system, oxygen is coming from the respiratory system, and both this glucose and oxygen dissolved in the blood or in the circulatory system and transported in the body with the help of the circulatory system. This circulatory system in Scoliodon is made up of from four parts. The first one is the heart that we have to deal in this discussion. That is the external internal structure of heart and the working of heart. So heart, the first part, pericardium, which is the covering of the heart. Then the arterial system. It is the system made up of from arteries, which are the vessels which supply blood to the organs. The venous system, this is the system made up of from veins, which collect from blood from the organs. Means these arteries supply oxygenated blood to the organs, and venous system made up of from veins, which collected deoxygenated blood from the organs, and the blood, which is the connective tissue, a fluid in which all the important nutrients and respiratory gases and all the excretory waste are dissolved. So in this presentation, we are definitely going to main focus is about the heart, which acts as a pumping organ. The function of the heart is a pumping organ. If we study the position of the heart in the Scoliodon, then the position is mid-ventrally in head beneath the pharynx region. So by this diagram, we can understand what is the position of the heart. If we see, this is the pharynx region. The pharynx region is identified by the presence of these gill slits, and in this gill slits, beneath the pharynx region, this heart is situated, and it is supported by coracoid cartilage, which is the cartilage of the pectoral girdle. It is supported by the coracoid cartilage. The position is in the mid-ventral side of the body. Means that is a characteristic feature of chordates, that chordates have ventral heart and the non-chordates have dorsal heart. As this Scoliodon is chordate, the heart is situated in the ventral side, and it is in the mid-ventral position, is the middle of the mid-ventrally, and beneath the pharynx region in the head, and it's supported by the coracoid cartilage. If we study about the external structure of the heart, this heart, which acts as a pumping structure in the circulatory system or blood vascular system, this heart is a modified vessel, and it is made up of from muscles, which is continuously pumping the blood by which a particular pressure is maintained in the blood, and the blood can flow against the gravitational force up to that head region. So this heart, the function of the heart is the pumping of the blood to ensure a proper blood pressure, to ensure a proper blood flow. That is the function of the heart. Then if you study the evolution of the heart, how the heart is evolved, you find that this heart is a modified blood vessel which get enlarged and starting pumping. So and it become a heart because as it is the evolution process, the animal become more metabolic active, and for a more metabolic active animal, there is a need of a pumping structure so that a proper blood pressure, a proper blood flow is maintained to provide a means fast source of energy. Another discuss about the heart external structure. In this slide, we can see the external structure of the heart. We have already discussed the position of the heart. So this heart is inside the pericardium. If you see here, this is the pericardium, which is the covering of the heart. And this is double walled pericardium. And the cavity is there. The cavity is called as pericardial cavity. The heart is situated in this pericardial cavity. And this heart is the heart is two chambered. That is, there are two primary chamber. One is this auricle, and second was this is ventricle. Auricle and ventricle. This heart is S shape. In the case of Scoliodon, the heart is letter S shape is there, and it is made up of from two primary chamber. Called as this is called as auricle, and another one is called as a ventricle. If you see, and there are other two accessory chamber, that is conus sinus venosus and conus arteriosus. So means if we see this slide, we can see there are total four chambers are there. This first chamber, this heart is situated inside this pericardium, which is the covering of the heart, inside this pericardium cavity. And if you find this is the first chamber called sinus venosus, which is the accessory chamber. And this sinus venosus open to this auricle, which is the second chamber and the primary chamber. And this auricle open to this ventricle, which is the third chamber, accessory chamber, primary chamber. And this ventricle now open into this conus arteriosus, which is the accessory chamber. So the heart of Scoliodon is two chamber heart. The first chamber is the auricle, and the second chamber is this is the first primary chamber, auricle, and this is the second chamber, that is the ventricle. And there are two other accessory chamber like the sinus venosus and the conus arteriosus. So Scoliodon heart is a two chamber heart, letter S shaped structure. And if we study external position, external characters, external structure, we find that the heart is situated inside this double walled pericardium. Inside that there is a cavity, and that cavity is called as a pericardial cavity. And there are receiving chamber. That receiving chamber, the first receiving chamber is the sinus venosus. In the sinus venosus, veins are coming. There are two veins, cuvarian duct and hepatic sinus. These are the veins which going to collect the blood from the body, and it opening these two veins, hepatic sinuses and cuvarian duct. These are the veins opening to sinus venosus, and this is the first accessory chamber. And then this sinus venosus open to the second chamber, which is a primary chamber, auricle. Okay, and this auricle open to the ventricle. This is the second chamber of the heart, primary chamber. And then this ventricle open to this conus arteriosus, which is the accessory chamber. And then this conus arteriosus extend in a form of ventral aorta to supply blood for the purpose of oxygenation in the gills. So this heart of Scoliodon, actually the heart of Scoliodon is called as a venous heart because it receives only the venous blood, and it sends blood to gills for the purpose of oxygenation by the help of this ventral aorta. If we study the internal structure of the heart of Scoliodon, then we can find that in internal structure, we can see the sagittal section of this heart, and we can see here, we can see the letter S. Here you can see this is the letter S shape. Okay, and this is the first chamber. This chamber is called as sinus venosus, and the sinus venosus receives the venous blood from this hepatic sinuses and ductus cuveri, and is open to the first primary chamber, that is the auricle. This opening is called as, this is the aperture. This aperture is called as sino-auricular aperture, and this is having a membranous pair of valves are present to prevent the backflow of blood. And if you find the first primary chamber auricle, you can see the wall of the auricle is thick. Okay, as compared to the sinus venosus, it is thick as compared to sinus venosus. This is the first primary chamber, And this auricle open to this second primary chamber, that is the ventricle, by the opening. Now this opening is called as auricular ventricular aperture. This opening is called as auricular ventricular aperture, and it is guarded by pocket-shaped valves, which prevents the backflow of the blood. Now the blood, now this ventricle, if you see the sections of ventricle, the wall is very thick, and this ventricle continue to the conus arteriosus, which is the fourth chamber, and it is the accessory chamber. And this conus arteriosus is having two rows of the semilunar valves, and in each valve there are three valves, and this conus arteriosus extend forward in a form of ventral aorta, which goes to the gills for the purpose of the aeration. So if we study the internal structure of the heart, what we find that the wall thickness, if we see that this sinus venosus, which is the first chamber, it receives, it is this sinus venosus and auricle. This both are the receiving chamber of the heart. It receives blood, only the venous blood. The sinus venosus receives the venous blood from the hepatic sinuses as well as this ductus qveri, and there is a aperture. This sinus venous is open to auricle by aperture. The name of that aperture is sino-auricular aperture. It is guarded by the valves, membranous pair of valves, which prevent the backflow of blood. And this auricle wall is thicker as compared to the sinus venosus. And then this auricle open to ventricle. Actually, the meaning of term auricle comes from this air. It is the structure is like a human air, actually human heart. This auricle means the air. The structure is like air, that our external air. And this auricle, it is having thick wall, and it open to ventricle by aperture. That aperture is called as auricular ventricular aperture. It is guarded by pocket-shaped valves, which prevents the backflow of the blood. And then this the third ventricle. If you find the maximum thickest muscle fiber is present in this ventricle. This the heart is evolved, as I earlier discussed, that the heart is a modified muscle fiber. So this ventricle having a much developed thicker muscle fiber is compared to the auricle. The reason is that this sinus venosus and auricle, they are just receiving chamber, but this ventricle is going to pump the blood. They are a forwarding chamber. Means they are going to forward the blood to the body or to the gills, towards the gills in the case of Scoliodon. That's why the wall of the ventricle is more thicker. And this in a form of a chordae tendine. Here we can see that these muscles, they are highly thick, and they can form a highly thick structure called as chordae tendine. So this ventricle is the forwarding chamber of the heart, which is going to forward the blood towards the gills for the purpose of the aeration. And this conus arteriosus is extended above in a form of ventral aorta. Now, what is this aorta? Aorta means these are the largest artery of the body is called as aorta. And as it is ventral side, that's why this is called as a ventral aorta. Ventral aorta get extended, and towards the gill it get a branch and supply the blood to the gills for the purpose of the aeration. If we discuss about the working of the heart is the venous heart. It receives only the venous blood, only the deoxygenated blood, and there is only single circulation. Single circulation means the blood only comes once in blood. In the case of human being, we have double circulation. Means first of all, blood comes to the right side, then go to lungs. From lungs, it comes to the left side, and then to the body. So blood is coming twice in the case of humans. So there is a double circulation we have. Our heart is more developed because we are higher vertebrates. This Scoliodon, they having a single circulation, means only once the blood comes to the heart, and that blood is the deoxygenated blood or the venous blood. That's why the heart is the venous heart, and it shows single circulation. If you find how the working of the heart is there, so as I earlier told you that these two chambers, that is this sinus venosus and auricle, they are the receiving chamber, and this ventricle and this conus arteriosus, they are the forwarding chamber. And this sinus venosus receives the deoxygenated blood or the venous blood from the ductus qveri and hepatic sinuses. Now there are rhythmic contraction of the heart, and that is called as systole. Means these chambers, the first chamber, sinus venosus, auricle, ventricle, and the conus arteriosus, they contract and relax rhythmatically, one by one. For example, first of all, sinus venosus contract, then auricle contract, then ventricle contract, and then conus arteriosus contract. So they contract and relax rhythmically. The contraction is called as systole and the relaxation is called as diastole. Okay. And what is the sequence here is that first the sinus venosus contract, then auricle contract, then ventricle, and then the conus arteriosus. So here what is happening actually, first of all, this conus arteriosus is relaxed, means diastole, and the blood come inside the sinus venosus by the help of hepatic sinuses and ductus pulmonale. And now the sinus venosus contract, first of all, sinus venosus contract, that is called a systole. So the blood goes to auricle because the auricle is relaxed. Okay. So that's why the blood goes to the auricle. Now auricle contract means that is called as a systole. As auricle contract, the blood goes to the ventricle. Why? Because this valves which is present in sino-auricular aperture prevents the backflow of blood. That's why to ensure there is the presence of valves to ensure unique flow of blood. So first of all, sinus venosus contract, auricle is relaxed, so blood goes to auricle. Now auricle contract, so blood goes to ventricle, and now then ventricle contract and plus blood goes to conus arteriosus, and when the conus arteriosus contract, blood goes to the ventral aorta, and from ventral aorta it goes to the gills for the purpose of the aeration. So this working of the heart, if we discuss in working of the heart, what is actually going on is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the chambers of the heart. Rhythmically means sequentially, and the backflow of blood is prevented by the help of the valves. So the blood is coming to the sinus venosus, and the sinus venosus is contract first. That is called as a systole. Relaxation is called as a diastole. So contraction of sinus venosus, then the contraction of the auricle, then the contraction of the ventricle, and then the contraction of the conus arteriosus. So this is the sequence of the flow of the blood. If we try to understand by the help of the diagram here, we can understand that the venous blood from the body is collected by these two veins, hepatic sinuses and cuvarian duct, and this deoxygenated blood means this blue is deoxygenated blood, and here it is oxygenated blood. This deoxygenated blood goes to sinus venosus contract. Blood is going to auricle contract, blood is going to ventricle is contract, blood is going to conus arteriosus, and from conus arteriosus, blood is going to the ventral aorta. From ventral aorta, it is entering to the gills by afferent branchial artery, and from afferent branchial artery is going to the gill lamellae. Now, this gill lamellae we have studied in the respiratory system, and the blood which is collected from the gill lamellae, that is called as the means that is collected by efferent branchial artery. Efferent branchial artery collected blood from the gill lamellae. That collected blood is a oxygenated blood. So that oxygenated blood is go to the dorsal aorta and it's supplied by the body by the help of the dorsal aorta. Now, what is the dorsal aorta? These are the largest artery of the body, which is situated in the dorsal side. So we can understand by this diagram that this is the hepatic sinus, hepatic veins, and it is the venous blood is entering in the sinus venosus to the auricle, from auricle to the ventricle, from ventricle to the conus arteriosus, and then it is entering to the ventral aorta, and from ventral aorta it is to the gills for the purpose of the aeration, oxygenation, and the blood which is collected from the gills are the oxygenated blood. The blood which is collected from the gills is by the help of efferent branchial artery, and then it is go to the dorsal aorta, means the largest artery which is situated in the dorsal side of the body, and now it is supplied to the body. Oxygenated blood is supplied to the body. Now the blood which is collected by the veins from the body, from the organs, is the venous blood. This venous blood is again pumped to the heart. So this is a cycle. In this way, the blood flows, and there is a cycle of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. But in the case of Scoliodon heart, heart of Scoliodon receives only venous blood. That's why the heart of Scoliodon is called as a venous heart. It is a two-chamber heart. One is auricle and one is ventricle. And there is only single circulation, means the blood comes only a single time in the heart. So if we summarize, this is the summary that the heart of the Scoliodon is a part of a circulatory system. It is a modified muscle fiber, which the function of the heart is the pumping of the blood, and the position is in the beneath the pharynx region, and it is two-chamber venous type of heart, S-shape, covered by pericardium, and having two primary chamber, auricle and ventricle, supported by two accessory chamber, sinus venosus and conus arteriosus, And this heart, there is a rhythmically contraction and relaxation of the heart, that is the systole and diastole. And by this process, the blood is pumped from heart to the gills for the purpose of the aeration. So actually, in the case of Scoliodon, the heart is pumping the blood to the gills for the purpose of the aeration by the help of the ventral aorta. So thank you very much for watching this video. These are the references which I use, or you can also use for the study of this topic. That is Modern Textbook of Zoology Vertebrates by R.L. Kotpal and the Corded Zoology by the E.L. Jordan. Thank you very much.